The YCS is come and gone, and we're going to be giving final thoughts on Ishizu Tier Elements, the format. Make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more awesome content. I've already given a pretty in-depth breakdown here in yesterday's video talking about the top 64 and my thoughts on it, but 71% of that Ishizu tier and leaves you 29% for your rest of the format. What is that, 45 Ishizu decks? I believe the math breaks down to or something very close to that. And then to, just put this into perspective, like, Madolche made it to top 32, and actually performed versus, the rest of the format, which is actually quite interesting. We give Mystic Mine a lot of crap in this format, and actually just give the card a lot of crap in general, but it's one of the main reasons why you see that other representation here for some of these decks even getting the chance to play in this format. So even if the format does look massively toxic, which, it is, you are getting the chance to see a little bit of diversity in between the cracks here. Players will step up to the challenge here to try to beat formats like this, all right? This is very much a player-driven format, I will say that, all right? The best players are going to come out here, they're going to step up to the plate, and they're going to challenge this format. And that's why people like Tier 0 formats, because it becomes a test of skill for the format, which, once again, is fine to have these every once in a while. But to have these be, a dominating recurrence, which we've had in the past, that's not such a good thing. So that's my internal thoughts on that. But your overall breakdown, I'm glad to see the Candy Treats, made it through top 32. The only other graphic that was made public that we had access to was the top 16 here. And this is where things get really rough. This is where you see your Ishizu tier elements shift to an 81% domination. And you're probably like, wow, that's 13 Ishizu tier element decks out of the top cut. Yeah, your number only gradually went up from there. Now, you also had Draco Slayer, which, I'm not going to lie, seeing Draco Slayer actually perform and do well is actually really nice. I know the Pendulum deck can catch a lot of people off guard if you're not prepared for the matchup. And some of the boards that they make are actually pretty scary, man. Don't underestimate that deck. And then we had Flaunderies carrying on in here with 2. And then I believe the finals were Ishizu tier versus Flaunders. Oh, look, a repeat of the last YCS. But that Flaunderies player had to carry his butt up through, the entire Ishizu tier elements hype or heap of pile here to even give the chance to stand at the apex of the rest of the format. So I think that's pretty interesting to note, but man, oh man, that's your format in a nutshell. Yay! Let's give it up for Ishizu tier. Such a good deck. All right, I want to pass it over, take a look at some of these deck lists from this event. Winning the event here was Vincenzo's list, and for what you expect out of tier this format, it doesn't get really too crazy, but there is Necro Banshee in the side deck down here, which is kind of interesting. We're also playing triple Zombie World. This is one of the actual first lists that I've seen in a long time that brings Zombie World back to the table as an option for this deck, which is kind of interesting. I also liked during some of the feature matches, you got to see the value that Beatrice puts in for a deck like this, which actually was kind of nice. The full package of triple Magnet, triple Saronir, and triple Druis Worm. Holy moly, man. Everything for this, though, the one heartbeat in the main deck is fine. I think everything for this list looks pretty standard. You don't get a lot of crazy wiggle room in this unless you're going to start, messing around with your ratios. We're also not playing a Guido. All right, next up here was our Flaunderies list. Ooh. Now, we are main decking Necro Valley with triple copies of Mystic Mine. You do need to find ways to detour your opponent. Mystic Mine is going to give you the option to do so. We're also playing triple Dark Ruler no more. You do have to find ways to stunt your opponent's growth, man. Dark Ruler no more, Mystic Mine will do so for you. You'll slow down the game. I also like the fact that this list was main decking the Harpy's Feather Duster, which means that you can basically, if a situation arises, you can pull it out, stun your opponent, and move on along with your day, which is also kind of interesting. I also see here we're playing set rotation, Okay, that's kind of cool. Outside of that, the little tech choices for this list actually are kind of cool. I see we're playing the Swordsman, or was it the Daybreaker Swordsman or Virus Breaker Swordsman in the extra deck as well? Huh, okay. Next up here, we have another Ishizu Tier Elements list. Now this one's going to be focusing on your Herald of Orange Light and your Diviner, or Herald of, dropping from the extra deck. I do like Herald because it does give you access to, trigger those mills during the opponent's turn, so you can set up. I also see that we side in the Gaga Cowboy and the Scatter Shot for time. Wow, so we have access to two things. One in the extra deck, and then one that we can bring in via the side deck as well. Basically have access to. Okay. I guess multiple timeouts. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the time rules are pretty shit. Like, let's just put that out there. For now, I disagree with them wholeheartedly, but seeing, some of the applications and things that players are playing out here to get access for time, Sprint is an unfair card. At the end of the day, drop a Scatter Shot, ping for 500, offer handshake to the opponent. Yeah, that's just kind of modern era Yu-Gi-Oh! Next up, Top 64 Simon He. Now, the first thing I saw when I saw this list was, holy crap, we're doing the double or nothing. Now, Tier technically has the room to have a couple of flex spots in your extra deck, alright? Like, don't get me wrong about that. But I really do think the thing that caught me most off guard with this was just the double or nothing. The fact that you can cheese OTK over your opponent who leaves a sprint in attack mode, and then all of a sudden down comes this massive, uninterrupted, 10,000 attack monster, all for the course of playing, what, one brick in your deck, that unless you are worried about it, you can shuffle it back into the deck. Like, you're not gonna have a problem if you mill it. I think that's the thing that makes this package even scarier in a deck like this, is you don't care, all right? Like, just chugging on along, you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I hit this, now we can go ahead and resume. I'll shuffle it back in. It's actually kind of crazy. Next up here was our top 64. Lars came back. This was the Altergeist player, I believe, out of the big event that everybody was like, oh my gosh. Now, this list does not play Fountain, which I found kind of interesting. We focus more on the Mystic Mine aspect of things here, instead of the regeneration aspect that you get with Mystic Mine, which, at the end of the day, is fine. You definitely... I don't know. I feel like the mirror match would have been the mirror match against the Mystic Mind Burn during the feature. If we'd actually played the field spell, I think we could have saw some crazier things. But, your Spawn Trap Popper, your Effect Veiler, and your Searcher are like your best option trees for this. But his whole game plan is much different than other runic builds. So you still focus on things, but you're going to be focusing a lot more on Mystic Mind to make sure that your game plan actually resolves and that this deck can actually do as it needs to do. And then next up here, top 64 is Flounder. Now this is a blast from the past. We're doing double Mega Ryza in this bad boy. No Apex Avian. It's down on the side deck, which is fine. We have enemy controllers in this bad boy as well. Yes. I love the fact that Econ is just... it's kind of taking a backseat for a while. Econ was really heavy last format. Sprite was playing it. You would see it float around into this deck every blue moon because it's free resource utility. But for the most part, if you want to be a good Flounder player right now, you really can't afford to play it. Honestly, outside of that, though, everything else looks pretty standard for this deck. Honestly. So now that you've seen all the top cut decks here, I kind of want to give some final thoughts on this format. The format looks absolutely awful. Alright, I know people want an emergency ban list right now. People want a change. The thing is, I think you're going to be stuck with this format through December up until January, when we get Photon Hypernova in very early February. It's a shame to say that. I'd like to see some sort of change, but remember, we still have 2 more YCSs coming up. You have Costa Rica, you have the remote dual YCS in December as well, and I know Konami's looking at the data. Konami's going, oh, we know that we need to do something about these particular cards. When a turnover is hitting 70+%, I understand that it's It's annoying, and I know a lot of people that this is one of the only few times of the year that they get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Because, you know, school's going to wind down, you know, people kind of want to hit that holiday season up, they want to hit locals up, and they want to have a good time, and I get that, and I understand that it can be frustrating to, you know, see the format warping out like this. I would say be patient, we'll see how things go. Like I said previously on the local level, that things aren't necessarily bad. It depends on your local community, honestly. If you've got a good local community, I've seen a lot of Rogue performing. So, I think there is hope out there. So, what do you guys think? Please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.